My name is Martin Daly, and me and my wife, Joy, raise Gotland sheep in Lebanon, Oregon.
Okay, now I noticed this sign in back of us, Glen Oak Gotlands. Tell me the story of that, because this is a different name, this farm.
Well, that's the doings of my wife, more than anything. I first started out as Glen Oak Gotlands, and I still refer to our flock as the Glen Oak Gotland flock, you know. But the total operation is called Shepherd's Lane now.
Now, one of the reasons why you might have a different name for one breed than another is because you have to do marketing, correct?
That's true. That's true. You know, and actually, the Glen Oak comes from when my grandfather had the heart wrench, and then I had the heart D wrench, and then we had Glen Oaks. We just thought that, you know, the oaks would go in well with that. You know, so that's how it came about, and so we started getting these little girls in 2003. I had the first semen brought in the United States, and we artificial the first ones. We're original breeders of Gotlands here in the United States. Now,
that was one thing I really wanted to get you in the midst of all of this field of glorious gray, because you're responsible in a large part for bringing this animal to the United States, and many people don't understand what it takes to get this animal, which is Gotland now, correct?
Yes.
How did you get it here? Talk about the process a little bit.
Well, you know, it was more or less kind of like an accident, really. I was in Great Britain selecting out rams from several different other breeds, and one of my clients told me that I should take a look at the Gotlands, and I said, "Oh, I've never heard of Gotlands," you know. And they said, "They're a Swedish breed." And I got through with my business a little early, and I had a few days before my flight back to the States, so I went down to Whitehall Farms, David Barlow's operation, and looked at the Gotlands for the first time, and I was very impressed with the animals. Primarily because they're small to medium-sized animal, and they're longwools, and most of the longwools, as I said previously, are large animals. Teeswaters, Wensleydales, Lincolns are very large animals, and I thought that a lot of people like to raise longwools, but the problem is that they're small landowners and they can't run very many of them. And with a Gotland with a smaller body size, somebody with a little 5 acres can have, you know, six or so sheep, depends on how the quality of the feed is and everything. But no, that's what attracted me to them. And then I started learning more about their personality, and these really do have a great personality. On my ram side, I select for personality on my ram side. And once we wean the lambs, then I'll come out and set on a bucket or bale of hay like this, and I'll watch the rams, and those that approach me, I normally like to select those animals because they got more orientation. Because most people have small farm flocks or small hobby farms, they want to relate with their sheep, and these are an excellent sheep for those folks. They're easy care sheep, really. Tremendous mothers, tremendous milkers, very prolific. We'll breed ewe lambs here, and we get them to breed readily. You know, 70% of our ewe lambs will lamb.
Is that a good percentage for sheep?
Oh yeah, some breeds like the Teeswaters and some of the other longwools, Wensleydales, it's very difficult to get them to breed as lambs.
Well, so in terms of getting this sheep here, we didn't always have Gotlands in this country.
No.
And you can't always bring over the physical animal, correct?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't. There's only, at the present time, there's only 2 countries in the world we can bring physical animals in, and that's New Zealand and Australia. So, I mean, any of the EU countries, you cannot import live animals.
Is that because of scrapie?
Primarily because of scrapies, yes.
Okay, and Canada has the same, you know, think about it, Canada and Australia and New Zealand all have a connection with Britain, but they're all countries on their own. But for some reason, Australia is very much a different agricultural country than Canada in some ways in terms of their rules, correct?
Well, it's just because they don't have scrapies in Canada or New Zealand. They've never had a reported case of scrapies, so that makes, so the USDA and APHIS sets another protocol for those countries than countries that have previously had scrapies.
Now, that's a very easy thing to have something come in, just like that. So I can see.
No, really it isn't. I mean, you know, it's going through quarantine of the animals and you know, your personal selection of the animals. You know, it's a long process. Normally, you know, when I go over there, people will think that I can go over there and bring semen right back with me. But usually we're planning a year or a year and a half in advance of bringing new genetics in.
So when you brought the Gotlands, what year was that again?
That was 2003.
Okay.
I saw them first in 2002, and we got them in 2003.
So you brought the semen in and you did a breed up program on this?
Yeah, that's same as the Wensleydales and Teeswaters, except for we had a program where we picked certain foundation breeds. When I started with the Gotlands, I took all 7 of the foundation breeds and bred ewes of all the breeds here. And that, so I could see what the difference in the different breeds. And several of the breeds were very good matches. Some of them were not very good at all, you know, as far as the foundation breed.
So now these animals are, this is the thing that fascinates me. They're all gray in one shade or another, but they're gorgeous different shades of gray, light to dark. And
Right,
that's all
we have
acceptable,
a lot of different colors. You get light like this ewe right here. We'll see them when we go outside. You'll see the difference in the colors. But you have a lot of different colors, and that's a preference of some of the breeders. Some of the breeders want these dark ones, real dark ewes. Most of these ones that are really dark will get a little grayer as age comes on. But you know, a lot of them like this color. That color there is much in demand, and a lot of it's driven by the hand spinners, though. You know, some of these, what they like about the hand spinners like about this luster and the beautiful gray colors. They really thrive on that, and then we readily can sell this. These fleeces. The fleeces off these ewes are probably, we've already shared them once, they're probably going to go from anywhere from $25 to $30 a pound.
That is amazing. Yeah. And it's such a beautiful color. So when you have a fleece and you have that outside, do you have to take any of that off in order to be able to use it? Because that frosting is part of what's so gorgeous.
Well, one of the things is in all breeds, you skirt it and you take off the inferior wool. Usually it's around here, around the neck and everything. There's more vegetable matter than that. And along the belly and the legs. You want to have a uniform fleece, and for hand spinners, you want it as clean as you possibly can get it. You know, the commercial people don't worry as much about vegetable matter as a hand spinner does.
Now we're outside of the Albany area, basically here in Oregon. How do they do here?
Great. I mean, this is very similar to the climate where I got them in Great Britain and also as far as Sweden. It might get colder in the winter in Sweden. It's amazing when they first did the cross, they called them outdoor sheep, because they stayed outdoors during the summer in Sweden. But they were on the Gotland Island, which was, you know, an island, and it doesn't get as cold as other parts of Sweden by any means.
It was just saying something. Yeah. All right, wonderful. Well, I would love to, if we can, I would love to go outside and see these babies in the sun. But right before we do, as long as we see them all next to each other, what is the age range of these sheep and the sizes?
There's a couple factors. The age range is some of these are a product of artificial insemination. They were bred earlier, and we have 3 different breeds here, and we just didn't lamb out our Gotlands as early as we normally do. Some of these lambs were, you know, March, April lambs. Primarily April lambs, really. You know,
so the larger ones in the back, those are, is that a month's difference or years difference?
Well, no, it's just a month, month and a half or so. One of the differences is just, you know, single twins too can make quite a bit of difference. But, you know, in the Gotlands, we have very few singles. You know, they're mostly twins. I mean, you know, we're going to, in this bunch of ewes here, I'll probably only select 4 to keep for myself.
Wow.
We're going to be we're very selective on our animals. The rest of these will be offered to other producers.
And I'm looking at them all as they sit here. This is a sweet little animal, at least so far as in my layman's standpoint. I come out here, they're kind of slightly curious, but not too friendly. But they, you know, they're cute little animals. Would this be a good small house sheep if you wanted a little hobby sheep in your yard?
Right, that ideal. ideal sheep for somebody that doesn't have a great knowledge of sheep or never raised sheep before, because these ewes have a high mothering instinct. The lambs have a lot of vigor. Lambs are up nursing very rapidly, and good survival rate of them. And they're short tails, so that people don't have to worry about docking them. And it's just a kind of an ideal hobby farmer lifestyle operation to have these sheep. They're easy to care for. If you have to flip them and trim the hooves, it's not a battle as some of the bigger breeds are. But it seems that they adapt well to a lot of climates. But in extreme heats, they probably wouldn't adapt very well to. There are some people who have them in more humid areas, and they seem that they're doing quite well for themselves in the humidity. But ideally is northern latitudes are where they would thrive the best.
This little guy in front of us, this little gal in front of us has a little white on her face here on the top of her head.
Yes,
is that
yes.
acceptable?
Right. A lot of people, they're more purists, say, they don't, the white, they should be all black. But when you go to Sweden, you'll be surprised how many ones you see with white on their heads. We've been led that, having a white spot is not very good. And then you start going to Sweden and start seeing, some of their stud ewes, and they've got white spots on them too. It's,
Beautiful. Okay, well, I would love to
All
get
right.
outside if we can.
That's it. Easy goes. Come on, girls. Move out. Easy, easy. They took off like mad. Move up. So it's a little easier out here in the sunlight to see the variation in the colors of the animals. That's it. That's it. Easy now. Hey, wait. Just wait. Good girl.
They do shine in the sun, don't they?
Yes, they do. You should see them after the rain hits them here. It's unbelievable how much they shine up. These have been, it hasn't been a while since they got rained on, but.
Now, you say long wool. Is that exactly what it sounds like? There are sheep that have a longer wool?
Have a longer, yes.
And does that mean staple length in terms of?
That means staple length. And most long wools have the number of follicles per square inch is quite a bit less than like a merino. We have some merinos that go, they'll have in the 60s, 60 follicles per square inch, where some of these ones will be, in that 17, 18, 20 inch. And the relationship of fleece density is that the denser fleece is, then normally the shorter the staple length. And that's, if you look at it scientifically, you would look at the number of follicles per square inch. There's blood flow to the surface, and those animals that have very dense fleece, the individual follicles do not get as much nutrients as ones that have less follicles per square inch. Yeah, there's about 4 ewes in there that could match up pretty good and go into our flock.
So what are you looking for in your flock?
Well, I'm primarily looking at that fleece type and the colors. The hand spinners like fleeces that are softer and that have that purling effect or spiral locks. And that's what we're looking for, is that when you get into some of the others ewes here, will have a straighter and lock formation, and One of the indications is that when you get those animals with those larger curls, as they get older, they get a little bit coarser, and the fleeces are not as desirable by hand spinners. But of course, with all breeds, that lamb fleece is the most desirable fleece of all for the hand spinner market. But we like to be able to market our mature fleeces as hand spinner quality. And by keeping that, selecting for those ewes that'll produce that kind of fleece helps us in our marketing.
This is a great thing to watch the dogs move these sheep. It seems like it's just like a little miracle. It's amazing to me.
Yep.
How long does it take to get a dog to work sheep, and does it matter depending upon the breed of sheep? How easy it is to work?
Good question. Breed of sheep will have some difference, you know. I mean, when we start with the Scotties, when we had the Scotties here, our dogs didn't want to work them at all because they had those horns. But certain breeds, you have to get them what we call dog broke, just used to being worked by a dog. But there are some breeds that are pretty difficult to work with. The dogs have to work pretty hard or be used to handling those kind of sheep.
Now, when she's saying away, and the dog goes around the sheep, is she literally directing the dog, or is she telling the dog, this is what I want you to do, and the dog figures it out?
Well, the dog's figuring out. You know, that dog when these dogs work a lot on the sheep, they pretty well know what you want them to do. I mean, I had a dog that I had worked sheep for 14 years, and she knew every step, everything I was doing every day. You know what the work was going to involve. And
so when this dog it gets to lie down, is that saying to the sheep, okay, you can mellow out now?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, it is, because you know, they know that the dog. You know, a lot of people say border collies are coyotes that are under control. You know, because it's all a predator behavior, really. Now, this is a very young dog. You know, she's not very old. She'll have. As she gets older, she'll gain a lot more confidence and skill.
So are they pretty good at judging? Okay, I was told to lay down, but the sheep did this thing, and I need to go.
Break, sometimes, you know, when you have a dog down and the sheep break, you know, they'll try to get them back down. You know, they know that's where they want and you want them. They'll anticipate a lot of things that you want them to do. But there's a good picture. You got a real dark ewe in there. You got some light ewes. The grayer ewes are there.
Beautiful.
And we'll go through those, and like I said, select out the very best of what we think are. And a lot of these ewes will be all exposed to rams this year, so we can have them have one lambing behind them before we implant them with embryos again next year.
Okay, so while they're all standing here, can you tell from this distance which those four might be, just in general, or is it one of those things you have to go up and touch the?
Well, I'm going to go through them thoroughly. Go through them. You know, look at their legs. Make sure. Look at their behavior too. I don't want an over flighty ewe. You know, I've had some beautiful ewes here. I'll look at the codon testing on them too. They're scrapie resistant, but at this stage in our flock, every one of those ewes are carrying at least one copy of the resistance gene, and probably a good 75% of those ewes are ours, and they're carrying both copies at the 171 codon for resistance.
So when you did your breed up program and you went 50% Gotland, 50% whatever the original breed was. Well, I have to ask, what was that original breed that you started with?
Well, we started with, we had 7 different breeds, everything from Shetlands to Lincolns and back down. And, you know, we even used Icelandics. They were one of the breeds of Icelandics. They lasted 1 year here.
And that was
and all their progeny left, yeah. They're dual-coated sheep and with a lot of patterning, and we just couldn't tolerate that. And
it might be good in Montana, but not so good here.
Well, they just didn't make very good lambs. You know, we just didn't see the consistency on them, and them and the Shetlands. You know, of course, you know, when you're buying Shetlands and using them in an upgrading program, everybody wants to sell you Shetlands because they want to get rid of their poor quality ones, right after that. It's just like anything else, but we used Wensleydales, Wensleydale crosses. One of the breeds that the blue-faced Leicesters worked out pretty good for us in our program because the blue-faced Leicesters are a fairly calm breed too. They worked out well. We used border Leicesters also, a few of those. Looking back at what we did, it really was surprising. We had some Lincoln Finnish landrace cross ewes that really produced some nice lambs. I was rather surprised at that, but they nicked quite well with our rams and produced some lambs of fairly good quality.
So that first cross, 50% Gotland, second cross, 75% Gotland, etc.
Yeah.
After the fifth generation, you're pretty solid Gotland?
Well, yeah, you can. Well, really, some people get hung up on percentages. I don't get hung up on percentages that much because I had 75% use that stayed in my flock longer than some of my 87%ers. They just weren't that. And this last year, believe it or not, we culled 98% sheep went to the packing plant.
Wow.
Because we don't. It's not the percentage. It's just how good that wool is and that those animals are. That really makes a difference. And if you just go by percentages, then sometimes you have a problem. You're keeping animals you shouldn't keep at all.
And that's one of those things that I think many of the lay people don't understand, that it's a really important thing for you to do, to cull your flock. And that might not mean sending to the packing plant, right? I mean, you might, if you remove it from the breeding program, theoretically it's culled, right? You send it to the neighbor because they want to pet sheep.
Or you just keep, if you're a small hobby farmer, you just don't breed it to a Gotland. You breed it to another breed, so you're not keeping those genetics. They don't come back in your flock. Now some of these ewes, we just we don't tolerate some ewes that have some traits that we see later. They have to go. We've invested a lot of money getting them up to the age of puberty where we can breed them, but if these ewes don't lactate as well as we like them, have them, it's marked down in the book.
Yeah, and you track all of that. You really have to be a record keeper extraordinaire, correct?
Well, yeah. Sometimes when you run as many as our sheep and lambing as fast as we are, sometimes it's a full-time situation. One of the things about the Gotlands I love is that I can go to bed at 10 o'clock and I'm not getting up at 2 because they're such good mothers, they lamb. They're fairly easy lambers because that head, the structure of that head can go through that pelvic girdle very easily.
Yeah, it's very nice, narrow, web-shaped head.
Right. Versus some of the other breeds that you have a lot more dystocia or lambing problems with them, birthing problems. But we hardly. I think we pulled Joy, 1 or 2 lambs last year out of our Gotlands out of 80 head of ewes. Whereas in some breeds, we really have to assist a lot of the births.
But it really seems to me to be an effective thing. If you are tasked or have tasked yourself, or as a career you decided to offer new breeds of sheep in the United States, and you breed them specifically for these traits, the people that come to you want a person that is a sheep guy, because you know what you want and you know what might be easy to do. Because you can make an animal look like that, but if you put the wrong stuff in your breeding program, you're going to be dealing with parasites all the time, right?
Well, yeah, you got to look at that's one of the things that we're thinking about starting doing. We're doing a lot more genetic testing than we did when we first started here for different traits and things like that. We're trying to find some markers that we can use to be of benefit to our production cycle.
Are you pleased with your Gotlands as you have them now, or are you like every other farmer that says, no, they got to get better?
No, they're I'd like to have made the statement that, man, it's going to be difficult for me to get 4 really nice ewes out of there. I like to have 20 ewes like peas in a pod. That made it difficult for me. That I would be going back, you know. Some of these ewes will be culled because lambing records of their dams, you know. You are a pest, aren't you? Huh? You like that clover? Hmm?
Is that the one that's going to be the neighbor's pet?
That's gonna be offered to somebody. I mean, yeah, but she was a triplet, born triplet.
So they'll be smaller anyway in the beginning. Is that right? Is that kind of how it works? And so you have to really get them to full size before you really know, or is it not like that?
You know, there's certain, we can statistically, you know, predict how big they're going to get, you know, but they're, you know, there's a lot of difference. There's a lot of factors when you're looking at size animals. Age of dam. The age of dam has effect because the lactation. A more mature ewe will have a better lactation than a young ewe. One that's a first-time lammer, you know, they're going to have more of a problem competing with a lamb that was born from a mature ewe, as far as size is concerned.
This is a great angle to see the slenderness of the leg on the Gotland, I think.
Yeah, they are. You know, that one ewe right there, see how her legs in the back, they're so close together? Mm-hmm. She's not going to make the cut. You know, I won't keep animals that don't have, you know, better legs. We haven't gone through these ewes, so we, you know, it'll take a time. We've been so busy with our Valley Blacknose project that the Gotlands the last couple of years are taking the back seat as far as our breeding program here.